Debate, the honourable member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased today to stand up and support the proposed budget, Bill C-74, the Implementation Act number 1, which really has 4 areas that we've been looking at as a government, taking input from across Canada and working with all parliamentarians on looking at growth, progress, advancement and reconciliation. A wide-ranging budget which does cover all aspects of Canadian society and business and our environmental needs. This is the first piece of legislation that our government is tabling to implement Budget 2018, and Budget 2018 continues to prioritize the needs of all Canadians. Over the last 2 years, Madam Speaker, Canada's economic growth has been fueled by a stronger middle class. Canadians' hard work, combined with historic investments in people and communities, help to create good jobs. Almost 600,000 of those jobs created since November 2015. This budget means more help for those who need it, those that also then go on to reinvest in their communities and helping their families and the businesses in the communities in which they live. Canada has renewed our relationship with neglected researchers, scientists, universities and colleges, with the largest commitment to fundamental research in Canadian history. We've also reignited the reconciliation progress. After the scrapping of the Kelowna Accord in 2006, we've successfully removed 57 boiled water advisories as an example of what we're doing, working with our Indigenous partners. The environment over the last 2 years has been at the heart of our policy, and it's inseparable from our economic success. By protecting our coasts, we protect our fisheries. By protecting whales, we protect one of our great natural inhabitants that share the country with us. Our tax credits for clean energy are helping to generate clean tech jobs, the jobs of the future. Women represent half of Canada's population, and their full and equal participation in Canada's economy is essential for our future. Removing the systemic barriers to women's full economic participation will support economic growth, strengthen the middle class, and build a fairer society that gives everyone a real and fair chance at success. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that by taking steps to advance greater equality for women, such as reducing the gender wage gap by employing more women in technology and boosting women's participation in the workforce, that Canada could add $150 billion to our economy by 2026. Equality in pay cannot be achieved without transparency. In the spirit of transparency, our government will provide Canadians with more information on pay practices of employers in federally regulated sectors. The government will commit $3 million over the next 5 years, starting in 2018-2019, to implement this pay transparency policy. As a member of the Industry, Science and Technology Committee, I was proud to play a role in reviewing Bill C-25, which is an act to emphasize diversity on corporate boards, getting women around boardroom tables to make decisions on behalf of business in Canada. Canada's economic success rests not only on the hard work of Canadians, but also the strong trade relationships that we have in an increasingly globalized world. Canada is and always has been a trading nation, and Canadians recognize that done properly, trade can be a positive force for change. The ratification of CETA, which began under the previous government, and also the resurrection of the TPP, which is now the CPTPP, reflect the determination of our government as we open markets for Canadian goods. Our government's also focused on rural Canada. Agriculture is at the heart of rural economies, and to support Canadian farmers, we have introduced the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. I was pleased to sit on the Agriculture Committee as we reviewed and made recommendations towards this new policy. This program will provide hundreds of millions of dollars to protect farmers and bring new innovative technologies to Canadian farms, while at the same time increasing innovation and public trust. To make use of the new agricultural technologies, farmers need reliable internet access. the government is investing $500 million to extend high-speed internet services to rural and remote communities across the country. Budget 2018 also proposes additional funding of $100 million over 5 years for the Strategic Innovation Fund to support low Earth orbit satellites and to develop the next generation of rural broadband. These satellites will be going on a north-south route versus east-west route, which will help our northern communities and our fly-in communities in northern Canada. Federal government scientists enrich Canada's research environment, contributing to research focused on public interest, as well as the kind of discovery science that breeds innovation. To accomplish this goal, Budget 2018 announces a reimagined National Research Council and proposes to provide $540 million over 5 years. Coupled with the largest investment in fundamental research in Canadian history of $3 billion, Canadian scientists now have the tools they need to compete with scientists around the world and, in fact, to attract scientists from around the world. This budget also advances Canada on the path to reconciliation with Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Together, we're working hard to improve the quality of life of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, as well as we're forging a new relationship based on recognition of rights, respect, cooperation, and partnership. In addition to the $11.8 billion invested in budgets 2016 and 2017, the government proposes to invest an additional $5 billion over 5 years. This investment will go to ensuring Indigenous children and families have an equal chance to succeed in life, to build the capacity of Indigenous governments, and to accelerate self-determination, as was announced by the Prime Minister on February 14th. To date, as I mentioned, we've also removed 57 boiled water advisories from reserves across Canada, and I'm pleased to serve as a champion to the Minister of Indigenous Services working on water on First Nations. The government also understands that reconciliation entails a new relationship between the government and Canada's Indigenous peoples. This is why Budget 2018 proposes to invest $8.5 million over 2 years to work with First Nations to understand how to make the program more responsive to the needs of individuals and families on reserve. Budget 2018 also continues the important work initiated in 2016 to build a greener and more sustainable Canada. To support the implementation of this historic national plan, the government has allocated $5.7 billion over 12 years, including $2 billion for the Low Carbon Economy Fund, to combat climate change and to advance clean technologies in Canada. In November 2016, the government also launched a $1.5 billion National Oceans Protection Plan to improve marine safety and responsible shipping to protect Canada's marine environment, as well as offer new possibilities for Indigenous and coastal communities, which is being discussed in the House a lot lately as we talk about pipelines on the West Coast. One example of how these investments can make a real difference in our communities is the energy-neutral wastewater treatment project at the City of Guelph. Utilizing a whole-of-government approach, both federal and provincial governments came together with industry and invested $1.5 million in an initiative to make our wastewater plant zero energy neutral. So we're also using research from the University of Guelph there, so the partnerships between our research community, business community, and our governments at all levels really are advancing the clean technology agenda for Canada. Projects like this really demonstrate how this type of collaboration and targeted investments build results for Canadians and results we can share across Canada and around the world. So I encourage all members of this House to support Budget 2018, our equality and growth budget. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and if you'll indulge me, I'll have to ask the pages for a new pen for all of the zeros I had to write down during the member's speech and the billions and billions and billions of dollars that he referred to that he was going to spend. And I think it brings up an important point. When the Prime Minister ran and the Liberal Party ran in the last election, Madam Speaker, they talked about 4 years of deficits. In fact, this year, in 2018, they talked about $6 billion in deficits, and we now know that it's going to be $18 billion. In fact, for a generation, Madam Speaker, there's no return to a balanced budget. So my question to the honourable member is, with all of the billions that he talked about spending, how can he go back to the people of Guelph who will have to pay for this, the children and grandchildren of Guelph who will have to pay for this Liberals party's and this Prime Minister's uncontrolled spending, Madam Speaker?
The honourable member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it's not surprising to hear the question from the honourable member from Barrie Innisfil. We've heard this question many times. We heard it during the election, and we also heard it since in all debates in the House. And really, there's obviously two different ways of approaching Canadians' future. One is to invest in Canada, to invest in Canadians, to invest in research, and the other is to cut budgets to try and get economic growth, which we know didn't work for the last 10 years. We now have unprecedented economic growth because of investments we're making. We also have researchers developing solutions that are resulting in changes for the whole world to benefit from. So investing in Canadians, investing in our future is the way forward. It's the successful way. It's the way that we've shown more growth in 2 years than the previous government did in 10. We're not going to be changing course back to the hack and slash budgets of the Harper government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My colleague across the aisle on the government side describes with pride the dollar investments that are going in to protect the coast. We hear about the $1.5 billion Oceans Protection Plan. That is a 5-year spending program spread over 3 coasts, and it's being asked to do all kinds of things. Protect us from a spill of bitumen in the event of Kinder Morgan oil tanker traffic, damaging BC's coast and economy, and also solve the abandoned vessel problem. So 2 weeks ago, the Transport Minister came to Ladysmith in my riding and announced $64,000 to remove abandoned vessels. It's better than nothing, but honestly, given that the previous vessel removal cost $1.2 million, $64,000 isn't much, and it probably cost him that much just to travel there to make the announcement. Can my colleague please comment on whether he agrees that feels to us on the coast like a drop in the bucket?
The honourable member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the honourable member from across the way. I think the project that she's describing shows how the revised National Research Council will be able to help to solve problems such as she's describing on the coast, where the National Research Council has funds for the ocean, coastal and river engineering programs, which are being consolidated under the National Research Council Technology Development Advancement Program, where we will be attracting money from provinces as well as private industry in order to leverage funds from the federal government. So we have to work together with provinces and industry and researchers in order to solve some of the major problems that we have on our coasts, and we are working on that, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We have time for a brief question. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. One of the issues that I often like to talk about is dealing with just how Winnipeg North in particular, with the Canada Child Benefit, the amount of money that's going into the communities. And that just doesn't apply to Winnipeg North. It applies to every riding in the constituency. Literally millions of dollars being put into support the children of our community. If my colleague and friend could just provide his thoughts on that.
A brief answer from the member from Guelph.
It was staggering to see the numbers for Guelph, $8.8 million per month going into our Guelph economy, helping the families of Guelph as well as Winnipeg North. This budget will be indexing those funds starting this July, which will give a future growth for supporting families in our communities, supporting our local small businesses who now have customers coming to the door with additional funds to spend on their goods and services. So it's going to help our economy as well as our families. It's a wonderful program. I'm very proud to say that we've developed a winner here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Resume